Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now, as many of you may know and some of you may not, Red Guardian is getting a buff. I believe it's coming live into game in February. And his buff seems very good. Yet again, we do see early version or current version of his buff demonstrated to us by CCP. Full disclosure, I am not in CCP, so the information that I can present to you in this video is drawn from their uploaded videos, and I cannot access gameplay of my own. However, obviously, I can still see what has been changed and tell you what I think about it. This time around, though, especially after Sandman's buff nerf, I can definitely say that I'm kind of cautious. At this point, I'm starting to dislike the idea or the fact that we get publicly covered early versions of these buffs. I think, if they are going to tune these buffs down and change them further, we maybe shouldn't see them this early on if they are still seriously potentially subject to change. And looking at Red Guardian's buff, it definitely could be so, because he does look a lot better. His buff looks extremely significant. So keep that in mind. Everything that I say in this video has to be taken with a grain of salt, because there is absolutely no guarantee that this version that we are going to be talking about in today's video is actually going to make it into the game and Kabam doesn't, reduce some of the improvements to his kit. Which seems likely, because Red Guardian does, again, seem quite busted. I'm not going to lie. Ever since Red Guardian got released, I really liked his kit. He was the very first buff immune champion, and we all know how important that right now is in the game. And he always had one very little problem to his kit, which I advocated for fixing pretty much immediately, and it never got addressed. All of his changes, to be honest, could have been foregone with simple increase to the trauma duration, and I don't think anybody would have been asking for a Red Guardian buff had Kabam done that pretty much immediately. And yeah, because his trauma duration was like 3 seconds or like 6 seconds if you had him at max sig and detonated it with your level 2, that effectively meant that it was borderline impossible to play him. You needed the perfect AI and you needed to be perfectly skillful in order to be able to play with the Red Guardian, and that was his biggest downfall, because he was very simple character. He had, nice slow in his kit and buff immunity, and he could have potential for a decent damage that was just quite impossible to maintain, and therefore it was extremely frustrating. However, this buff does pretty much address virtually almost all of it. So let's take a look at the things that have actually changed based on what I could see from the CCP information given to us. Nobody actually wrote this out for me, because people did talk about the things that have been changed, but there was nowhere like a proper list. Therefore, I might actually be missing some of the things that have been changed. But let's just go over one by one and what does it mean for his kit. Number one, his shield repairs at a constant 18-second rate now. Previously, it was, I believe, 8 seconds for the first time, and then like 24 seconds for the second time, and then even longer. And I'm fine with it. It is a bit slower initially, but you will not really worry about not keeping up your shield repairs at all. And for longer fights, this is just more constant, more stable type of thing. So I think it's fine. I don't think it's necessarily a major improvement to his kit in majority of the time, but it's also definitely nothing that hinders him. Now, max trauma stacks have been reduced from 3 to 2. And this obviously does speak to his max damage output. So his max damage output has gone down slightly. But realistically, it doesn't matter as much, because he does get bigger attack increases on his heavy attacks from each unique debuff. He gets higher crit rate, and his overall damage has definitely gone up despite his max traumas being reduced. So I don't think that's an issue either. Here is the big thing, where trauma duration has been increased to 12 seconds from 3 seconds. And that is a massive deal. I actually do need to put right in point number 10, where we have 10 attack bonus doubled for each debuff on heavy I believe that is how it looked like. Right, let's get back to the point. So trauma duration has been increased to 12 seconds from 3, and now if you do activate the trauma, basically you use your level 2 with your shield not fractured, he will just have a super long trauma that you will be able to maintain, and that makes him absolutely viable and playable, which I love. That is the biggest change ever. That is the main change that he needed. Everything else could have been relatively unchanged and he would still be significantly better champion. But now that his trauma duration has been increased so significantly, it immediately has a massive impact. Also, trauma potency increased to 80% from 70%. That's good because max traumas have been reduced, and this will give you bigger damage output from the get-go at the very first level 2. They also increased slow duration on his level 1 to 16 seconds from 12. That is not actually a major change if your Red Guardian was maxed before, because we're going to talk about his SIG ability previously, but basically, they just maintained the actual duration of his slows. Well-timed blocks do not remove durability is in his main kit now. You previously needed him to be SIG 200 for that to be a guaranteed thing, so now, unawakened or relatively lower SIG Red Guardians are also viable, which is great for when he comes in the game as 7-star eventually. I absolutely love to see that. SIG also lost increase in debuff duration. Previously, you could increase your debuff duration, I believe, up to 30%. I can double check that, but it definitely had a line, yes, up to 30% potential debuff duration increase. And with all of the massively increased debuff durations in his main kit, obviously losing this from the SIG ability is not an issue at all. You get way bigger debuff duration increases in his main kit now. Love that. SIG gained crit rate increase for heavies and specials per debuff. Now this is massive because Red Guardian's damage highly depended on whether you do or do not crit. Now, if you will have, 2 debuffs on the opponent, which would be like your slow from level 1 and your trauma from level 2, you will effectively, have a very, 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 very high chance to crit on your specials and heavies, which is going to interact with trauma and is going to significantly increase your damage output, which is a great thing for the champion. Also, we have level 3 fragility duration has been increased to 30 seconds from 20. Again, that just kind of coincides with the SIG ability losing the debuff duration increase. And attack bonus has been doubled for each debuff on heavy attack, which will work great with the crit rate increase from his SIG ability per debuff. That means you're going to be doing a lot of damage. And there is point number 11 that we also need to talk, and that is while shield is fractured. Shield is fractured. He goes unstoppable on heavy. And that's also great because that will make it even easier for you to drop in heavy attacks and maintain your trauma in general. And, for most part, your shield is going to be fractured if you're going to be dropping your level 2s. So, that looks great. It looks suspiciously great. That is my biggest worry at the moment about the guy. That genuinely worries me. Here we can see that this has been lost from his SIG ability. This has been lost from his SIG ability. The maximum durability thing they maintained. But for most part, yeah, everything about him looks significantly better now. He will effectively be the same champion that is much easier to play with more damage. Which again leads me to think he has a very good chance of being a significant science champion in the game, which at this point, after what Kabam did with the Sandman buff, makes me worried. Right? Because previously I made a video hyping up the Sandman buff, and then I need to make 3 videos saying that Sandman's buff is significantly more shit now than it was initially. I truly do hope it doesn't happen again. I do hope that, they leave him like this. This version of Red Guardian did seem exciting. It did seem like a champion I would consider ranking up and investing in potentially because, again, he has some very current abilities. Slow is always valuable. His trauma damage, seems to have been going up. His debuff immunity. Those are very good things. It's like a simple, well-balanced kit, which he effectively always have had. It's just that he was unplayable, really. Now he's playable, and his damage has gone up, and I think he will do well. I really do. Now, as far as I'm concerned, what remains is to wait and hope that Kabam doesn't, scale back his buff. And if they do this again, oh, if they do this again, I am going to have a problem with this information being released to the community so early on. If, the changes are kind of like frequent to these early versions, because many of us, I got hyped because of Sandman's early version of the buff, and then when I saw the latter version of the buff, I was significantly less happy. I was still hopeful, but, the buff definitely did not have the desired impact overall that it could have maybe had would we have the first version of Sandman's buff. So, that is the big asterisk of this video. Looks great. It really, really does. If it arrives in the game the way we see it right now. Which is a big if. Let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about